Greetings and welcome back to Haftarot. My name is Yitzchak Etshalom, and I'm delighted to be studying the Haftara of this week's Parasha, Parashat Lech Lecha, with you. But in order to understand it, we have to keep in mind that the star, the central character in Parashat Lech Lecha, as well as in Parashat Vayera, is Avraham Avinu. So I'd like to show a few things about Avraham Avinu that I think will shed light on the selection of this week's Haftarah. First of all, Avram's great mission, as we know, starts in Bereshit Yud Bet, the first few psukim, but I covered the first 5 psukim for a reason that will become clear in a moment. That Hashem says to Avram that you should leave from your land, from your family, from your father's house to the land that I'm going to show you. I will make you into a great nation, which means lots of children, we think. I'll bless you, which seems to mean wealth. I'll make you famous. And you will be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you. I'll curse the one who curses you. And this is the key line. All families of the earth will be blessed through you. Now, what does Avram do in response to this call? Vayelech Avram goes. And remember, Lech Lecha means you go. It means you go alone. Vayelech Avram, he goes, kasher diber elav Adonai, as God said to him. Vayelech ito Lot. It sounds like Lot, his nephew who he had adopted, because he was an orphan, tags along. V'Avram ben chamesh shanim v'shivim shana v'tzeto mecharan. We're told how old Avram is. He's 75. But then we hear a second pasuk which actually contradicts the first one. Vayikach Avram et Sarai ishto v'et Lot ben achiv v'et kol rechusham asher achashu v'et hanefesh asher asu b'charan. Avram took Sarai, his wife, Lot, his nephew, all of the property they had, and all of the people that they owned, the slaves. And they come to Canaan. Now, what's different between Pasuk Dalet and Pasuk Hey? Is Dalet seems to be describing the ideal picture of how Avraham was supposed to go. Hey describes what actually did happen. We find numerous examples of this kind of dichotomy in Tanakh. The reason that's so impressive is because, remember, the blessing to Avram is you're going to be a great nation. And we were already told at the end of Parashat Noach that Sarai is barren, but here we are 10 years later, and Sarai Eshet Avram lo yaladalo, Sarai has not given him a child, and she has a concubine, an Egyptian concubine, or an Egyptian slave woman, who becomes a concubine, and the slave woman's name is Hagar. Vatomer Sarai al Avram, he not Sarani Adonai miledet, but not Shivchati ulai banem imena, Vaishma Avram lekol Sarai. And Sarai says to Avram, behold, here is, God has kept me from having a child, have relations with my handmaid, maybe I'll be built up through her, she'll have a child, that child will be mine, and Avram listens to Sarai. What's impressive is that until this point, for 10 years, since Avram was given the mission, or perhaps even longer than that, Avram did not venture any other method for fulfilling the blessing and the promise to become a great nation. He's with his wife. His wife is getting older, no children, no sign of pregnancy, nothing happening. And Avram does not initiate any move to divorce her, to add a second wife, to take a concubine, nothing. And the only time it happens is when Sarai comes up with the idea, which shows a tremendous thing about Avram's personality. That he is devoted to his wife, he's devoted to his family, and of course, he's devoted with full faith in God that the promise and the blessing one day are going to come true in one manner or another. Parenthetically, throughout Parashat Lech Lecha, we also hear how this blessing is fulfilled, where he becomes enmeshed and connected with the families of the earth. Now, let's take a look at the Haftarah that was selected. It's developed into the Haftarah that's commonly read for Parashat Lech Lecha and certainly read in our communities. It is, again, like we saw over the last 2 weeks, from the second half of Yeshayahu. It is from the end of Isaiah 40 until the middle of Isaiah 41. And it goes as follows. Lama tomar Yaakov daber Yisrael. Yaakov, why are you speaking as follows? Why do you think that your way is hidden from God and that God is not taking care of you? Haloya data im lo shamata. Don't you know? Elohei olam Adonai borek tzot. God is the one who created the world. Lo yi'af lo yigai. He's never tired. En cheker litzvonato. There is no depth to his understanding. Meaning his understanding is profound beyond any searchable depths. No ten la ya'ef koach alein onim otzma yarbeh. He gives strength to the one who is very tired. V'yafune arim v'yigau. Even young men get tired. U'achrim kashol yikashelu. And young men ultimately trip up. But those who have hope in God, they continue to have strength. Yalu ever kanasharim. They're able to lift their wings like an eagle. Yarutzu v'lo yigau, yalchu v'lo yafu. Now, what does this have to do with Avram? The answer is, again, the story of Avram. Here is Avram who was promised this great promise of children, of a great nation. He comes to Canaan. He leaves everything behind. His wife is not bearing him a child, and yet he continues on his path with tremendous faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he continues to have strength throughout. He doesn't age. He gets older, but he does not age. And as we continue looking through the Haftara, we see other allusions to Abraham, and then Abraham is going to come out quite clearly towards the end. If you take a look at Pasuk Bet, Mi He'ir Mi Mizrach, who is it who has woken up from the east? Sedek Yikraehu L'Raglo. Now, in simple pshat, this is talking about Cyrus. Cyrus has been woken up from the east and is going to come to make justice, allow Am Yisrael to come back. Yitain Lefanav Goyim Lachim Yard. God has awoken him from the east and has handed the nations under him, and he rules over them. He's able to hurt them with the sword as if they're nothing, right, etc. However, the allusion here, and Chazal see it this way, is there's an allusion to Abraham, who has been woken up from the east, where he comes from, to the land. Who is it who has summoned the generations from the beginning? And the beginning of the generations is Avraham for us. I am God who has called Avraham from the beginning. Right? All of the nations are coming together, they see and they fear. People help each other and they give each other support and strength. Avraham is the first person we hear of in Tanakh to create alliances. He creates alliances with other people who live in Elonei Mamre, and they go and fight together. The forger gets strength from his work. And now, what's the option? What's the lesson of this towards Am Yisrael? And this is Am Yisrael who is sitting in Bavel waiting to be redeemed. Remember, this is the second part of Yeshayahu. V'ata Yisrael avdi Yaakov asher b'charticha zera Avraham ohavi. I promised you, Avraham would come and make an appearance here. Yisrael, my servant, Yaakov, that I chose you, the children of Avraham who loves me. By the way, Avraham is the only one who is called that in all of Tanakh. Avraham, my friend. Indeed, there was an ancient midrash that the reason that Hebron was called Hebron was because Avraham was buried there is the great Chaver of Hashem. And by the way, when the Arabs heard that, they named the town Khalil, the friend, Khalil Ar-Rahman, the friend of God, all starting from this pasuk, Avraham Ohavi. And we hear about Avraham. I have held you. But this is an allusion to Avraham. From the ends of the earth, and I've called you from all of these places. I told you, you're my servant. I've selected you. I have not rejected you. This is Am Yisrael who feels rejected. But they're using Avraham here as the model, as the inspiration, as the one to emulate. Don't be afraid. I'm with you. I am your God. I'm giving you strength. I'm helping you. And again, the whole theme here is don't give up. Avraham is the great model of somebody who did not give up. And as we come to the end, we see Al Tiri in Pasuk Yodal, Tolat Yaakov Mtei Yisrael, do not be afraid. Ani azarticha nu Adonai v'goalech kadosh Yisrael. I'm the one who helps you. I am your redeemer. Nesamtich l'morag charutz chadash bal pifiot. I've made you like an iron wheel that threshes through the corn. Harim v'tadok, netadush harim v'tadok u'vaot kamotz tasim. You're going to thresh through all the mountains. Tizreim v'ruach tisaim u'sa'ara tafitz otam. The wind will carry them all away. Them is all the nations that you're going to come and displace. In the meantime, you will rejoice with God and take praise with the Holy One of Israel. This is, again, the model of Abraham coming to the land, with nothing in the sense of family. He has his wife, he has his nephew, he has his property, but he has no children, and still no children come, and he has faith, and he interacts with others, and Hashem is with him the whole time, and ultimately, of course, the promise is realized. This is the Haftara of Lech Lecha, the Haftara of Abraham Avinu. Shabbat Shalom.